Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Granger, and tonight I'm going to be presenting to you about the evolution of the human nervous system. Specifically, I want to look at the role of our early hominid and primate ancestors and compare and contrast what things changed in them that resulted in our brains and our nervous systems today. One really important thing that came to be and the purpose that I felt was important for researching this subject for the class was that our nervous systems are very unique when we compare them to other mammals and even to other primates. We have much more developed certain areas, such as our neocortex, our vision, and we have a lot of different traits that you really don't see as developed in other animals, such as our social constructs. And I wondered what this happened or how this happened and where it came from. And hopefully, in this presentation, I'll be able to share with you all what I learned in my research this semester in reading these different papers and what the researchers have been able to find out. One of the first differences that I was able to discover while reading these papers, and as we've learned from these past few weeks, is brain size really played a big role in the primate nervous system development. I have a picture here from one of the papers that I studied, and it's showing the comparison of brain sizes between two species of primates, humans and the macaques, and comparing them to another two species of mammals, being the rat and the mouse. The reason why they use these four subjects is because humans and macaques are about similar enough as rats and mice are, and it's also very similar in the amount of the ratio of encephalization quotient. Now, what this is just comparing basically the brain sizes and the differences between them. And what they're able to see is that in the humans, especially, but in primates in general, our brain sizes are much larger in comparison to our skull and the rest of our body than compared to other mammals. Rats and mice, for example, have a much smaller ratio, and this ratio tells them that the body size of these different organisms is much larger in comparison to their brains than the primates are. As you see, this number that says 6 to 9 is the ratio of encephalization quotient for both humans and macaques. But you see something a little bit even more special here in that comparing humans and our primate relative, our brains are much larger in size than even our other closely related primates. And this was something that seemed to be a trend throughout, is that we had a bigger brain in general than in other primates, and especially compared to other mammals, especially when compared to our body size. And this increased brain size led to increased capacities. Um, what they looked at next was, okay, the brains are bigger, but are certain structures bigger? Because some structures are more important to certain activities such as social behavior, higher reasoning, planning, and other senses and other abilities that we have. And what they compared is these different structure sizes with many different types of primates and mammals. So we have simians, prosimians, insectivores, bats, and they compared different areas being the neocortex, the medulla, the paleocortex, and then here off to the right we have the olfactory bulb. They included the olfactory bulb because this was a little bit different. In most mammals, olfactory bulb seems to be quite a bit larger than compared to humans. This is in large part because, according to them, that the olfactory bulb is used a lot more in terms of smelling for gathering information about their environment, while in primates, it's not nearly as important, especially in humans. But if you look over off to the left in slides A and C, it's showing a graph of structure size compared to how many samples were taken. And as they're able to look at it, they're able to see that all these different areas, be it the neocortex, be it the striatum, be it the hippocampus, all seem to be larger in not only primates, but especially in humans. Now, this is really important. These areas that are much larger and much more developed are areas that are really important for a lot of things that we are special. The neocortex, I'll discuss about in a little bit, is one of those key areas that is much larger and humans, and much more developed in humans than even our closely related primate relatives. And this is due to the evolution of our um, hominid ancestors and what things they've went through and what things they were able to acquire and the genes they were able to have. As I just said earlier, the neocortex is a big area of focus with a lot of this research. Um, the, area, the neocortex involves a few different areas of the brain. Those areas mainly being the frontal lobe, occipital lobe, the parietal lobe, and areas of the temporal lobe. This is mainly the outside of the brain. And what is so important about the neocortex is that it does a lot of stuff. As it says there in that picture, it has to do with logic and reasoning, planning, goal setting, um, higher consciousness as we understand it as human, control of our emotions, language, and having a sense of right and wrong even seem to all boil down to a well-developed neocortex. All these other things such as memory, fear, anger, hate, are all on the inner parts of the brain for the most part, which is in most animals. But for us specifically, the areas of focus that these researchers were looking at was the neocortex. And they found that in humans, especially, and primates in general, and our ancestors, more than likely the neocortex was much larger and much more developed and developed much more rapidly in us. One kind of interesting idea that a researcher threw out was about vision and gaze, and especially how we related to our social constructs that we have. One area that they look for is a sulcus or a divide between the occipital lobe and the parietal lobe. The occipital lobe, as the name suggests, has a lot to do with how we see and interpret what we see. Um, and when we discussed it in this class so far in the last couple of weeks, that what they look for in the casts of our hominid brain ancestors is looking for this sulcus that divides those. This really helps show that this is a development towards us. And one thing that they notice is that vision and gaze seem to have a really large impact on social constructs and on our social abilities and how we are able to read the bodies, interpret them, and then be able to build off of it. You can realize that now just by looking at somebody. You can usually tell when somebody is upset with you, when somebody doesn't like you, when somebody does like you, when somebody wants help, just by looking at them and being able to interpret their body language. This is something that may not necessarily be super unique to humans, but definitely is more developed in us compared to other mammals and other primates. Another important factor is just vision in general. In humans, one researcher had to say that our visual cortexes, or our visual areas of the brain, developed in such a way that allowed us to be able to interpret what we were seeing around us, relay stuff to our hippocampus and remember areas of importance, and also be able to interpret colors more distinctly and realize that these colors relate to foods that we'd like to eat and want to remember to eat in the future. One really important factor that was also discussed in depth in this class was dietary needs. And um, a researcher did a lot of research. This is a huge paper looking at the dietary needs of our early ancestors and saying that a lot of the people that were able to develop, or our ancestors that were able to develop and lead to us as humans, were found in areas that were rich in foods that were meats, fish, eggs. There are proteins and fats and omega-3s that really led to the increased dietary needs and be able to sate them, because brains require a lot of energy to run. And without being able to find these foods and then being able to cook them, we would not be able to have the brains that we do today. And these dietary needs were able to be met, and the people that were in the areas that had these were able to develop these brains and continue developing them. Something that was kind of a little bit different, but I thought was really impressive, is something called an artificial neural network. And how this relates to evolution is that researchers today are looking at these artificial neural networks. Now, I don't understand this figure entirely, but what they're trying to show is that they're able to create a program that allows them to interpret evolution of the nervous system and interpret how it works and interacts, how synapses are made, how synapses are pruned, and how we create these connections. And looking at them, they're able to see how they are made and how they will continue to be made. Um, this is all that I have for my presentation. I just want to finish with this class was very interesting. I'm very happy that I had the chance to study evolution and the human nervous system. Our nervous system is something extremely special and it's taken thousands of years to develop and be able to get to this point and has been led by that way through different areas that have been focused and refined and sculpted so that we can become who we really needed to become as humans. I thank you for listening and thank you for your feedback. Bye.